They taught us how Africa fell, but never how Africa once stood. In my old school, we debated the motion colonization was good for Africa. I vividly remember this one boy standing up and saying that if Africa was never colonized, we wouldn't be studying in square classrooms, but in circle ones. Instantly, after hearing those words, something in me broke. It wasn't just what was said that hurt, but who said it. They came from an African boy, a boy in whom I shared the same skin tone, the same language, the same land. Yet he had grown up believing that his ancestors were incapable of thinking, incapable of building, incapable of creating, that without the West, Africa was nothing. And as angry as I was, I also felt pity, deep pity. For how do you grow up believing your entire lineage was primitive? I didn't argue with him. Instead, I walked out the classroom, tears running down my cheeks. Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie once said, show our people as one thing, over and over again, and that is exactly what they become. And that is exactly what our education has done. In the 3 education systems I've studied in, the Kenyan 844 system, the American curriculum, and now A-level history, the story is always the same. Mau Mau rebellion, slavery, colonization. Struggle, loss, defeat. Thanks to my parents, I've been to schools with a diverse range of people. In my American school, there were many Americans, and I went there with the mental hierarchy that Africans usually have, the hierarchy that makes us believe that they are greater than we are. It wasn't until I saw them trip, I saw them spill food on their clothes, struggle to pronounce English words, have bad hair days, get nervous when the teacher asked them to read aloud in class that I realized they are really just like us. Only that our minds have convinced us they are not. But why is that? I'll tell you. It is through what we see and what we hear. You see, that boy in my class was not stupid or ignorant or rude. He simply had never been taught that Africa once had over 10,000 states. It had empires, kingdoms, city-states with governments, armies, mathematics, trade networks, medicine, architecture, philosophy. He was never taught about the Songhai Empire, the Benin Kingdom, the Great Zimbabwe, the Ashanti Empire, the Kingdom of Congo. He believed what he had been given. He believed that to be African was to be less, and not to be African was to be rich. What if I too joined my American school, having have learned of Africa's rich pre-colonial history? Maybe I would have auditioned for that play I was yearning to act in. Maybe I would have raised my hand up in class when I didn't understand. Maybe I would have stood up that day and told that boy he was wrong. Like the poet Precious Moses said, before your castles had windows, we built empires of gold in Mali. Raised stone cities in Great Zimbabwe, deserts with knowledge of Timbuktu Library. Egypt pyramids were not mystery, my darling. They were blueprints of architectural mastery, absolute genius. This is what colonial education took from us. Not only history, but memory. Not only memory, but identity. What if that boy had known the truth? What if he had known that his ancestors were innovators, builders, thinkers? Maybe he too would have stood up and said something different that day. Maybe he would have said our ancestors built kingdoms, pyramids, libraries, empires. That they were thinkers, scientists, rulers, innovators. That he came from greatness. You see, that is what colonial education did to us. But to reverse this, we need to teach African history before colonization in every school within the African continent, and in extension, the world. But we cannot wait for our colonial education systems to teach us of a history they are deeply trying to erase. It starts here, with you? How hungry are you to decolonize your minds? Simply changing your feeds from mukbangs to African history tellings, from not only watching Al Jazeera, but also from nothing. A YouTube channel dedicated to teaching African history before colonization. Not only reading Shakespeare, but also Chinua Achebe, Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, Ngugi wa Thiong'o. For the information is there. It's on our TikToks, our Instagrams, our YouTubes, our libraries. It simply trickles down to how deeply you want the next generation to know that Africa too birthed greatness. And when you learn this, you realize it still births greatness. Me and you. For when we know what our ancestors have built, we no longer question if we are capable. We only ask, what more can we build now? Thank you.